I think you've said in the past that you actually think World War III has already begun in some context.
Yeah, correct. I believe that we are already at the early stages, if not in World War III. The problem is that people seem to think that World War III is going to emulate World War II. The deployment of nuclear technology and nuclear weapons now would look completely different than the deployment of nuclear weapons looked in World War II, if only because we have 9 nuclear-capable countries right now. Not to mention the fact that we have a completely different information landscape. We have a completely different political landscape. We have a whole different landscape for alliances and for treaties. The world is very, very different than it was when World War II broke out.
So you think we're in World War III now, or the early innings of that?
And I think World War III is going to be shaped by what we call proxy war.
What is proxy warfare?
Proxy warfare is when a wealthy nation state funds and trains and arms conflict in a less wealthy state where there's usually some sort of civil disturbance or civil fight that's already happening. Much of what we've seen in the last 10 years is proxy warfare. Libya, Syria, Yemen. People argue that what we saw, even Afghanistan, Iraq, where the US was involved, was proxy warfare. Israel and Iran is model proxy warfare. Russia and Ukraine are also models for proxy warfare.
So there's someone else funding it, and they're using that nation to do the work for them, essentially.
Exactly right. You use a intermediate nation that's still developing to decrease the capability of your primary target, while you yourself conserve your own troops, your own weapons, and your own civilians against harm.
Benjamin, what's your take on that in terms of us being at the start of the precipice of a world war and it looking like a sort of a different set of weapons, a different way that we'll fight each other, and the internet and digital warfare being a part of that?
I don't think since the beginning of the Cold War, let's go back to 1947 or 48, I don't think we've stopped fighting. I just think we're fighting wars of different kinds. So I think this idea of kinetic warfare is less frequent, especially among the major powers. So Israel and Iran is an example of one of the last few gasps of kinetic warfare. But if you look at the United States and China, United States and Russia, the European powers, NATO, it's less kinetic than it is more through use of information, through technology, through cyber warfare.
What's kinetic?
So kinetic is, when I refer to kinetic, I mean using actual physical means, bombs, missiles, tanks, soldiers, that type of thing. And it's less now, and it's more now moving towards other forms where you can now destabilize a government or a system of government or a society using a server farm and 20 people sitting in a room thousands of miles away. And you don't necessarily need weapons to do that, where information becomes weaponized, where digital tools become weaponized. And that's far different than anything we saw in the 20th century. So I think that the rise of the internet in the beginning late 1990s through the 2000s, we've seen now this become industrialized at scale. And I think the threat comes now from the ability of countries and regimes to destabilize and interfere with others in a way that they simply couldn't do years ago. And now you don't even need to fund it massively to do that. It's basically warfare on the cheap.